Hi, I'm Ella McChrystal and this is The New Mind. Today's guest is Dino from Married at First Sight, Australia. Now, some of you will have seen various different clips of Dino from the telly, but today we want to focus on Dino's other work. He's a holistic educator. Now, just to explain that a bit more, he's a meditation teacher. He works within the astrology field, and he's also someone who dabbles in a bit of past life regression, which is very interesting. And he co-owns with his lovely wife a medical and holistic clinic in Hong Kong, which is where they both live. And they've come all the way from Hong Kong today. I think it's the furthest anyone's ever travelled. I'd like to say it's just for me, but it's obviously not, to be on the podcast today. So welcome, Dino.
Thank you so much, Ella. It's lovely to be here and very, very grateful to finally be in your presence. And it's such a lovely studio that you have here that I think gets the best out of people with their stories, their journeys. So I'm really looking forward to sharing mine. I've got a present for you, Ella. So it is my published book, A Miner Who Wins Inner Peace.
Wow. So I'm going to hold this up to the camera so people can see this. Now, I saw you. So I don't know if you can all see this. And obviously there'll be links to the book as we release the podcast.
Absolutely, yeah.
So anyone who wants a copy of this after listening today, and I'm just going to hold it up to your camera as well if I can, Dino, just to give people a really nice, really nice shot of the book.
And the cover is obviously a namaste, which is my soul bows down to your soul in honor, in respect, and mutual love.
I love that. And I'm really very much enjoying it. And I said to you actually earlier on, one of the great things about being a podcast host is that you get lots of books gifted to you. So it's a real gift.
Oh, yes.
And we should all read more. So I'll make sure everyone has a link to this.
Thank you so much.
For the podcast when it's released.
Thank you. I've just got goosebumps. I want to tell you why. Because before this whole podcast, you shared some details where I could look at your Vedic birth chart.
Yes.
Now, what the birth chart tells us, it's sort of like a journey that the person's going to have in their life and sort of key characteristics as well. Now, something about you, Ella, is that you are very authentic. You love to laugh, no matter no matter who's in front of you, whether you're in a quiet space or in a crowd. But laughter is your medicine. Laughter does things for you that, it's a healing. It's a healing in itself.
Yes.
And, you're very strong with who you are. And laughter is a way to celebrate that. So I just wanted to say that laughter, when you're giggling, you're actually touching an authentic part of yourself. And that's a beautiful way to be. And I think everyone should celebrate that, no matter what their journey is like. And, I think we all go through challenges. But I think each challenge or setbacks, when I reflect back on them, they're all like stepping stones.
I know.
Something beautiful.
Yes.
So
it's so powerful that you've said that, because there will be people listening, and I know this just because of some of the stuff that I put out on my social media, and they'll be suffering and they'll feel like it's a state of permanence.
Yes.
And they won't be able to relate their nervous system response to the fact that this is not permanent. This is literally a stepping stone, and it's a glorious process.
Yes,
but it doesn't always have to feel glorious for it to be, for the outcome to be glorious. And I think,
absolutely,
when we use, I suppose, descriptions like stepping stones and, trying to practice non-attachment and non-permanence, it's actually so much harder if you're not being guided sometimes. And I think it goes back to that. Let people hold the space for you.
Yes.
And let go a little bit.
Yes. And it's all a balance of I guess, getting attached and letting go.
Yes.
A balance of that. That's what life is all about, I find. And I find when you're letting go, I guess that's the true nature of love, really.
Yeah, it
is. Because when you go into aspects of attachment and possession, that's not love. That's something like, that liking someone. And if you like a flower, you might pluck it and keep it in your pocket, and it's going to die eventually.
Yes.
But if you love something, you will water that flower. You will make sure it heals and it grows, and just providing space, like you said. So I find that's the real simple definition of love and like. where like is full of possession and
Yeah.
I guess controlling and
It is controlling.
yes.
And actually, you're right about the laughter. It definitely is a medicine. But one thing that I would have definitely struggled with myself for various different reasons, trauma reasons, would be the element of control.
Yes.
Reminding myself, and I say it daily to other people, control is an illusion.
Yeah.
And you're having to, sort of remind yourself of that as well, that when you're in flow state and when you're in giving into the process, whatever that moment is at the time, yes, it's sometimes scary. And yes, when you let go, you feel like you're falling.
Yes.
But the reality is that sometimes it's through falling that we realize we're supposed to land somewhere.
Yeah.
And it might not be where we thought.
Absolutely. Yes. You nailed it, I think. And I find that when you're falling, you're actually also giving in to a higher source.
Yes.
You're giving into a higher source that can sort of guide you in many ways. And we all have this gut intuition, intuitive ability that stems from where we store our emotions. When we're so depressed or sad, we may not be able to, I guess, rely on this intuitive ability because we're driven with emotion as well. But if you can learn to harness these emotions, embrace them, release them, let them go, you will tap into a source of intuition that guides you in many ways. Not even the mind can do that, and not even the heart. But your intuitive ability is basically where knowing that you're meant to be at a certain place at a certain time, and what decisions to make, like how high-empowered decisions. So
let me ask you this question.
Sure.
I think this is really important. Recently, there was something happen where I had a really strong gut instinct, and your intuition, your gut instinct never ever lies. I keep saying this to people all the time. Trust it. You might not want to trust it because sometimes it's giving you a message that you don't want to receive.
Absolutely.
But I've found that when my gut instinct is right or my intuition is right, if there's someone else involved, which there usually is, when they are honest about what my gut instinct is telling me, my nervous system calms almost immediately, even if it's not the truth that I want to hear or the truth that I want to acknowledge. When that truth or that person aligns with my gut instinct, immediately the nervous system settles. Because it's ready to take on the next chapter. The reason I say that, and I'm going to ask a question around it, is because I think so many people have that gut instinct and they ignore it, and they think by ignoring it, it will just go away. But you mentioned the emotions being trapped there.
Yes.
I kind of understand that from the physiological point of view, how the fight-flight response and the sort of danger responses, the amygdala, how it pushes the chemicals and the neurotransmitters and hormones, and then our body sort of gets tense and constricts and compresses and holds it all in the body. But if you could give any advice, I guess, advice is a strong word, but any information on the sort of following the gut instinct and trusting it, because it's actually so important. We spoke about letting go. Letting go to the truth is probably the biggest thing that people struggle with. So how would you recommend doing that? Because that's a really difficult thing to do, I think.
It is. And I guess there's sometimes people, when they get this gut instinct, they may have a feeling of controlling who the person is or what the situation's about. But I think when you look at it, out of the box, like you would look at yourself and think, why do I need to control this person? Like that gut instinct sort of tells you what you really need to let go of and what you need to take action with and stuff. But I think when people are sort of confused if it's emotion or if it's gut feeling, they will try and rearrange everything, like the situations, the people. But, it's like when you're rearranging people or situations, you're like trying to rearrange clouds. Like, no one can rearrange clouds. In the same way, you've got to let certain things happen on their due course. Controlling people as well. And, tapping into, say, Married at First Sight, for example. There were a lot of things that, I guess, behind the scenes where the producers were, there wasn't any script or anything, but they sort of told you, oh, what about this? What could you do this? Could you do that? And it was all scripted going into like a storyline. It is a TV show at the end of the day, but and then, you have gut instinct, like, no, this is not right. This is not what I'm going to do. But some people will just go through with that and actually let people control them and let people, do the actions that the producers wanted them to and so forth. So it's very interesting. thing. You've got to. So I had this whole background of coming into Married at First, and obviously, looking back at it, you've got to take it, as a learning, but also as a celebration itself as well.
Yeah.
I don't like to dwell on certain things like, it's a script and it's the producers, blame everything on them, because at the end of the day, like, no one put a gun on your head and said,
And we are
you've got to say this
responsible
line.
for ourselves.
Of course. Of course. So
Yeah.
whatever you see on TV, I mean, to a certain extent, it is truth, but obviously some things are edited.
Yes.
Like, I will give you an example. So coming to the wedding day, when I galloped on this horse.
This is the iconic. If anyone's a fan, which I am, obviously, if anyone's a fan of Married at First Sight, this is an iconic scene that will never be forgotten throughout the whole of the fandom of this show.
That's right.
It was the scene.
It was the scene that set me apart.
Literally set you apart from everybody else.
Right.
We were all just like, either whoa or wow.
Yeah.
This is, in whichever way you look at it, it was a groundbreaking moment.
It was. And coming back to that day, so there were certain interviews that we did where Moxies, they're called individual interviews. So there was a point when the producer asked me, and he said, what do you think of your mother today? She looks so beautiful. She flew from Hong Kong to Sydney to be at your wedding. She looks so amazing. I'm like, yeah, she's one of the most beautiful women in the world. Her dress is amazing. She knows how to carry herself really well. Then come to the show, to watching it back on TV. Those same lines, we hear like a third party going, so what does Dino think of his bride-to-be? And then those same lines were edited to cut to, so he thinks Melissa is really beautiful, out of this world, and gorgeous, carries herself really well. And I'm getting messages going, what the hell are you thinking? Like, blah, blah. But then it goes to show, like, this is just like a surface of things, but it goes much deeper into I guess completely tarnishing certain images.
Yes.
And you're getting death threats as well for people who are cheating in marriages and stuff. But at the end of the people have got to realize that it is a TV show, and you're only seeing probably 5% of 95% of what the person's like.
Yeah.
So just keeping that in mind. So going, reflecting back and watching the episodes and stuff, and you're getting comments from all different types of people. Some will support you, some will, try and I guess troll you as well.
Yeah.
But you've got to take it all, like embrace it and actually sit with it for a while. Not get too absorbed into being reactive. Because if you're reactive to everything that comes at you, good luck to your energy, good luck to your time.
Well, who's got time to be?
Exactly,
when you've been on a TV show that is seen, I don't know where it's seen. It's probably seen in many, many countries, but we know definitely Australia and the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of people with a lot of opinions.
That's
that
right.
You cannot have the energy. No one's got the energy to deal with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, looking back at it all, as coming back to that whole point of it being a celebration, because, when on the show, whenever I'd speak, there would be sitar music playing in the background.
Yeah.
I'd be like, this is amazing. Wish that happened in real life.
I'm surprised you haven't brought someone with you to play music as we speak.
Where is the sitar music?
That's hilarious.
No, but looking back, I really acknowledge and celebrate that, because then connecting with you, even Ella, like it happened because of Married at First Sight.
So true,
and so many good people that I've met on Instagram who are based in the UK, so supportive, so kind. It's really like a blessing, and I find that that's where people have approached me for genuine reasons about wanting to learn about meditation and wanting to learn about past life regression, and that's what pushed me towards like having this as a full-time career. Like along with my wife, we run she handles more of the medical side, so I'm bringing more of the spiritual side and holistic well-being. So that's amazing. This is basically what I wanted to manifest, being say like even 5 years ago, I was working as an engineer in the mines, Australian mines, being in the office, and I was really like bored. I was bored, probably to a certain point of depression as well, and wanted to change. And that's where Married at First Sight came. I said, okay, great, I'm going on the show.
Did they contact you?
Yes. So we went through a casting process, and then, I got a message saying, you should try it for, come on, just do the casting and so forth. So I said, oh, I don't know, I was halfway through the application. It's like a 30-page application
Wow.
that you've got to go through. And it's asking everything about life, like your childhood and stuff. And so I thought, oh, this is probably genuine because they're going to match me with someone who I really, really want and who I'm really looking for. But I guess when you're really attached to like the expectation, then it goes completely haywire.
Yes,
and goes
I'm
the opposite.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I left it halfway and I said, no, this is not for me. But then a week later, I get another message saying, oh, I think you should go on the show. It'd be really great. So then, I went through the whole process. And in the interview, I remember I was talking about the mines, working there as an engineer and blah, blah. And they were all bored, I could tell. Then I said, oh, but I do love meditating. I love coaching and guiding people with their own meditations and about mental health and so forth. So then their eyes lit up and they're like, oh, we could so go along with this and so forth.
Wow.
So if it wasn't for meditation, I probably wouldn't have had all these opportunities. So coming back to that point about being authentic and being you.
And going with your gut instinct.
Exactly. And that's where I went with my gut instinct. And I said, we've got nothing to lose, single at the time. And I was like, yeah, but why not? It'll be an experience. And more, it was an experience.
I mean, it really was.
Yes.
Because I loved Melissa, of course. She was a very zany, lovely character.
Yeah.
But from the outset, it was not a match.
No, it wasn't. I mean, on paper or even like being compatible with the person, no. But I mean, all respect to her. I wouldn't be sitting here and saying, oh, because she did this, she did that. I don't have it in me to actually do that and genuine reasons. And I respect her for who she is.
Yeah.
We weren't compatible.
No.
And that's all.
It was clear. And that's what's interesting about the show. Although I do love the show and I don't want... I've done an episode with a couple of people where Channel 4 have reached out because I think they feel like I'm here to... I love the show. You know, I've got no issues with the show. I think that the interesting thing is, though, and I guess the bigger picture here is to highlight, when people are watching the show, they need to remember that the contestants or the cast, some of which have applied and some of which have been chosen, are just people having an experience.
Exactly.
And not in control of the editing, not in control of what the producers believe the storyline should look like. Because like you say, there is a storyline. I know one of the favourite words, certainly on the UK episode, is jeopardy. They want the jeopardy. They say jeopardy all the time to the UK contestants. That's a very common phrase that they use. So, and that boosts viewing figures.
It does.
And drama is what people tap into.
Exactly.
And I'm just sort of saying that I think we should, as watchers of any reality TV show, if we're going to indulge, just be mindful of the fact that the contestants will have a completely different perspective than the watcher. And I think that's really important because you've said there a few minutes ago that, you know, some of the cast members from your show, and I know certainly in the UK as well, have received death threats. And, you know, some women have received rape threats.
Wow.
And it's kind of like... that's not acceptable on any level, whether you like someone or not, you know, to publicly or otherwise threaten them in that way. You've got to remember that that does have a detrimental effect.
It does.
And what you've said is you can't give that too much time. You can't absorb it all.
That's right.
How did you manage that though? Because obviously there would have been a lot of opinions flying around, and with your background with meditation and coaching and stuff and that holistic approach, how did you manage that? Because you're only human, so there have been times it was tough.
Yes, but I guess, you know, when people are trolling and stuff, you don't have to take it personally. Don't take it to heart, because knowing always that they're coming only from one lens of what they see on TV.
Yeah.
But you've got so many different lenses to you that you can focus your time and energy, you know, on those. Yeah. So I started responding to people who wanted to learn meditation, and these were people who were in Belgium, Netherlands, UK as well. And I was like, great, I'm connecting with people who I would never have said hello to, and doing like online sessions with them, and so building that base. So I started focusing my time and energy on that, and that's what grows. You know, like when you sit there and respond to trolls and all that, you're watering something that's never going to end. It's like you're watering a dead end. Yeah. But if you're watering something that it brings you positive energy, it brings you amazing feelings that you're actually making a difference in other person's lives. you want to water more of that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're gardeners of our own life, and especially our mind.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we'll have flowers. I keep going back to flowers. I don't know.
But look,
Feeling all the vibes.
I think I put you in the right position.
Yes.
This plant, well, it's fake plantage, but it gives the illusion.
It does. Beautiful flowers. So, so I always think flowers are like positive thoughts, and you'll have weeds as well, negative thoughts, questioning yourself and questioning, is this really me? Is this really worth it? But you've got to actually water your flowers and allow the weeds to come, because that's part of making a garden of your mind.
And some weeds are actually very beautiful.
They are beautiful. So it's got to be a mixture of both, and knowing that not everything is permanent. Everything is temporary.
Yeah.
So I found that some people who I've interacted with now as well, they're still looking back at Married at First Sight, looking at, they did this to me, they did that, and having that resentment, and just let it go. Let it go. The more you let it go, you'll invite more opportunities for you.
So true.
And you're getting open space, and it's you who decides who deserves your energy, who deserves your time. So I'm actually coaching the people who've been on the show as well.
Wow.
So, have a tough time of letting it go, even if it happened 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you've just got to let that go, and don't get too attached to the fame, because I think when you get attached to, I guess, recognition or validation, that's not happiness. That's something that's really illusional, because sometimes you'll have people who really commend you and then say, oh, great, you're doing amazing. Some people will say, oh, you were a real jerk on the show, and blah, blah, blah. And but, I guess if you're reactive to that, then you're not really centered within. And when you're centered within, you will know what to react to and know what you can't. No one can buy back time. You're right.
Oh my gosh, that's profound. Yeah.
There's morning we just had. I can't go back to the morning and say, oh, I wish I said this to my wife and wish I said that. It happens in that moment. And when you're so aware, when you have this whole meditation practice behind you, you'll be aware with how you speak, how you walk, how you interact with people, and hold space for them as well. So I find your energy and time the most important currency today that we have. So use it wisely. Use it, I guess, with what you really want to do, because we all have a ticking clock that one day will stop. So it's about making most of your time. And I find, like, now looking back at everything, I'm like so glad I'm not an engineer now.
Yes.
And I can actually do what I love, which is helping people on a more I guess deeper level in terms of like connecting with, say, their subconscious, but also looking at their astrological birth chart. So I studied astrology, and that's where I met my wife.
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Because a couple of things before we talk about the astrology, I'm really, really interested, because like you said, you mentioned you did my birth chart. So I want to ask some questions around that
I want to share with you.
Yes. And I want to do this for other people listening as well.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's an unknown, well, not an unknown, but it's, let's say, comparatively an unknown area.
Yes.
So I definitely want to come back to that. So do not let me stray. The one thing I want to ask, though, and I think as therapists or as coaches or as teachers, this is something we often come across. And I don't know how to word this correctly, so just bear with me a second while I get my words in order.
Take your time.
I am going to take my time, because this is really important what I'm going to ask. Countertransference, where you're working with someone and you are believing that they're not being open-minded, or you believe that they're frustrated, or that you believe that they're stuck and not willing to push past it.
Yes.
And the countertransference is that we can often... The client or the person that we're teaching can sense that from us.
Yes.
So with all the sort of letting it go conversation, and also as a therapist, as a coach, and for those listening that are holding space for anyone, how do you feel is a good way to let go of your own frustration when you're working with someone else?
I find it comes down to elements. So this also connects with the whole astrological birth chart as well. So say, Ella, you were born 14th November. Yes. Now that in your birth chart, I found a very deep connection to water. water energy. So, for instance, if you're finding it hard to let go, sometimes it's the ambience, it's the environment. Like, say, if you're a water sign, something with a flowing water, or even a picture of water stream being on a beach, that sort of thing, that'll really flow your conversation.
It definitely does.
Yes, and it allows you to actually free flow with your conversation, and in the same way, let go of any resentment, anything that you're holding back. And I find the element that the person's connected to is a really important part of how having that space of letting go, and that determination, that will, it just naturally connects with us, because we are connected to nature in more ways than we know.
Oh, of course, of course.
In terms of elements, and so say for me as well, like walking in nature. So in Hong Kong at the moment, I've got this initiative for giving back to the community, and we do full moon meditations.
Oh,
so,
gorgeous.
So every month we're doing full moon meditations in open space, and we're actually on grass as well, Mother Earth. And I find that people get such a deep feeling of also letting go, but also being who they really are, connecting to who they really are.
Yeah.
And I find, like, we say love is the most powerful force in the universe. I find it's authenticity. That's the most powerful source in this universe, most powerful force, that when you are authentic, you gravitate towards more people who are authentic and who are right for your energy.
So true.
Yes. And example, like, say my wife even as well, like I find that when I was loving what I did, and teaching meditation, we had an astrology class that was lined up after this session that I was teaching, and the coordinator said, "Oh, why don't you stay behind? It's an astrology class." And I'm like, at that time I was very regimented with my meditations. I'd wake up at 4 a.m, do my meditations, go to the gym, and I was really like disciplined. And I mean, I still am in a certain way, but yeah, it's something in that gut feeling again told me, stay for this astrology class. So I stayed, and then that's where I saw my wife just walk in this beautiful, gorgeous green dress. She pulled it off so well.
Aww.
And I still get a bit emotional talking about it, but she's just a angel sent on earth.
Aww.
And really brings back great memories to her. And so
I love this.
That's where I felt
it's really sweet, because that's such a powerful moment for you.
It is. And, before I'd always be like, when I was working in the mines, and it was all really manly culture, I would have thought like, oh, I went through depression, never really spoke about it with anyone as well. So I found that, when, I met her, it's like, oh, you can speak about anything.
Yeah.
So
she allowed
beautiful.
you to be
being
yourself.
Who I really am. And it actually started from being who you really are. And that's where you attract a lot of people.
Yeah.
Who are
and that's the astrology.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's so you're in an astrology class together. She walks in a beautiful green dress.
Yes.
And you happen to be wearing green today, which is maybe
a
coincidence.
That's right.
Yeah, as we talk about those first moments of love.
Yes.
Just mirroring there.
Correct.
And the synchronicity of that is quite sweet. But also, I think the fact that you met in a space where this is not your average way to meet. I said this to you earlier, like how many people have met in an astrology class?
That's right.
And it says a lot about both of you.
Yeah.
And about your obviously shared interests and thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff. And you've both obviously got this really keen curiosity in who we are as people. And not just the surface level stuff.
Exactly, yes. And then when you meet someone who's aligned with your energy, you can talk about anything at all. Like and you feel like you're in your own skin. You don't have to be in anyone else's skin or anyone else's clothes or anything like that. You're actually who you are. And that's the biggest, statement that you can make, biggest sense of freedom that one experiences as well.
Yeah.
And I find that, coming back to your question as well, how does one let go of that and be who they really are?
Yeah.
It's the element. That's one part of it. The next part of it is also, I talk about this in my TED Talk, which is the idea of personalized meditation. So one size does not fit all. Like just to go back to when I was going through depression, I took a year off and went to Rishikesh, India, because I thought, that might have all my answers. And sometimes you have to get away from the box you're living in.
Of course.
Because then you won't be able to see what else is out there and stuff. So I took a a year off and went to Rishikesh, India. This was all before Married at First Sight as well. So then, learned about meditation, stayed at different monasteries, the temples as well. And didn't go through a formal course because I wanted to experience the authentic side of meditation.
Yes.
Where does it all come from? Because when you go to these big organizations, they all have one particular way of doing it. And that's all they say. It's like, yeah, my way of meditation, and that's all there is.
Yeah.
But I never believed that.
Maybe a bit ego-driven.
Exactly. Yes, I find that as well. So I found that, I could stay in different monasteries, learn different techniques. So I learned 112 different meditation techniques.
Wow.
Now, having this knowledge after a year and then healing myself as well, and knowing this new perspective of living, not too materialistically driven, but of course, I mean, we all need money in this day and age, but your whole priority shouldn't be all about money. It
No,
should be
definitely
about
not.
what moves your heart, what creates this authentic vibe for you.
Yeah.
So I came back to Australia with all this knowledge, and I wanted to really get out there and teach meditation. I never knew how to start or where to start as well. So I went to this Buddhist monastery. Every Friday we used to do community meditations, and the coordinator said one Friday, okay, so who would like to teach meditation? And that's where I felt, oh, this is my calling. Like, this is really exciting. So I raised my hand, and then a few people raised their hands as well. And then she goes, oh, it's actually for maximum security prisons and drug and alcohol rehab centers. Then people started lowering their hands because it's a maximum security prison. But I kept my hand raised, and I was the only person that volunteered at that time.
Way.
Yeah. And it opened so many doors because I was like, oh, even though I saw this Netflix documentary on the same prison the night before, and I thought, oh, what did I get myself into? all these people I've never met before, all these men who, who want to meditate. But then I went in there with the passion, the mindset of knowing that these people want to learn to improve themselves, to manage their emotions, especially men as well, because men still have a tough time talking about emotions or being emotions. And this is where I found that we had 4 people in the first session. Then the next week we had 8, then it grew to 12, then it grew to 15. Then the chaplain comes up to me, he's like, what are you doing in there? It's a 8-week program, but your numbers have already reached maximum level. What are you doing in there? Are you feeding them something funny? I'm like, no, feeding them meditation. What it feels like to be in that meditative state, to connect, you would probably know this, to connect to your subconscious level, subconscious mind, to retailer your habits, retailer your beliefs, any addictions as well. And people who are having anger issues really were talking about flowers. They were talking about, after the second week, they were no longer talking about, oh, I'm going to kill him, I'm going to murder him, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about how beautiful the flowers are on our mindful walk on Mother Earth. And it felt so good to see that transformation happen right in front of you. And these inmates opened their eyes. They felt such calmness, such peaceful vibes, even in a prison, in a maximum security prison, where you're dealing with a lot of gangs, a lot of violence as well. But there can also be peace, because if you know how to access this, it's part of you through meditation. You can be in any environment, but yet feel so calm and peaceful from within.